In this video, I'll be shooting out the old Boss OC3 against the new and improved OC5, specifically in a jazz context. I know there's a lot of great videos out there already, demos of the new OC5, but I want to focus on what I know how to do and what I've been using the OC3 for the last like 5 years. The point of this video is to hopefully help you make the decision if it's worth it for you to upgrade. I've also owned the OC2 in the past. I've got previous videos on that. And I just decided I'd rather keep the OC3 so I can share my thoughts a little bit on that. But mostly the point of this is to compare what the added improvements are to the OC5. Now, a bit of a disclaimer first off, you would have noticed it already, but my OC3 is missing the mode dial. It's stuck in the polyphonic setting. It's been like that for 2 years. And I really haven't missed the octave 2 down settings or the overdrive settings, which I thought were kind of bad to begin with. So unfortunately I won't be able to share that with you. However, what I'm trying to focus on is the practical sense, how I use the pedal and how I know a lot of people prefer to use it, which doesn't have anything to do with those features. Now that leads me into the first thing I should point out between these two pedals is that the OC3 does have overdrive. The OC5 does not have overdrive. So if you're one of those few people that likes to use the overdrive in the OC3, probably not worth it to upgrade to the OC5. You're gonna miss that feature. In a second here, we'll get a chance to listen to a comparison, a back-to-back comparison of the octave 1 down sounds. Then after that, we're gonna get to the polyphonic mode and analyzing where the differences are there. For me, that's the biggest change. I'm playing an Eastman AR810 floating pickup, solid wood, archtop guitar into a Mesa Boogie, which is surprisingly a great jazz amp, mic'd with a Shure SM7B. Something I need to make note of as we move into the playing samples, especially the solo guitar arrangements, is that I've intentionally cranked up the octave down signal so that you can hear it and understand what it sounds like. It doesn't sound like a pure guitar or a bass, you know, pitch shifted down. It's kind of a digital sound, and I use it more just to kind of fill in the space, especially on solo gigs or gigs where I'm backing up a single horn player. It's great for that stuff, but in this video, it might sound a little unnatural because I've intentionally boosted that so you can hear it. I definitely recommend a good set of headphones or speakers if you want to be able to hear it clearly, as it probably won't come through that well on a phone or a laptop. So that was a comparison between the octave 1 down sounds of these two pedals. I'd love to know what you thought so far on that. I have noticed that the OC5 has much improved tracking. So do you prefer the tone of one or the other? And if so, is the improvement in the tracking of the OC5 worth it to you? Let's talk about the features for a minute, and then we'll get into the polyphonic rundown. One of the main differences between the OC3 and the OC5 is that the input jacks. We have separate ins for guitar and bass. And the reason that they do this is so that the polyphonic mode can operate completely. The point of the polyphonic mode is to be able to analyze the range of the instrument that you're playing in and to decide where to apply the octave down setting. A few times I've plugged mistakenly into the bass input, and during the song I realized what had happened. Obviously I can't stop and go down and change that too quickly. So that was a drawback. I appreciate that on the OC5 they have one input now, and then a switch on the back to flip between bass and guitar mode. So same thing, but kind of a better layout in that you're not gonna mess up like I did a couple times. Now, both of these pedals have OC2 modes. I've owned the OC2. I've owned 2 pedals of it actually. Both of them I passed off to different friends that were bass players, as I felt like they didn't sound that much better than the OC3. A lot of people, it's kind of a cult classic. They love the OC2 sound. There's a great video if you want to shoot out the OC5 versus the OC2. Yannick Wazdala uploaded that a couple weeks ago, and it's a fantastic video, so I highly recommend that if you're interested in that. On the OC5, the OC2 emulation is accessible by flipping the switch here at the bottom to vintage mode. In this case, the 4th knob is going to control the octave 2 level. So we've got the direct level, the octave 1 level, the octave 2 level, and that's basically what the OC2 is. Boss OC3 can do this pretty well, and I think they do a great job at it. One big difference in the OC5 is that we now have the feature of an octave up sound. The octave up actually I think sounds pretty good. I own a lot of different octave pedals. I've got the Electro Harmonix POG, the Pitchfork, obviously the OC3, I've owned the OC2. The Octave Up sound does retain that kind of classic warmth that you get from the Boss Octave series. It doesn't sound totally digital and kind of artifacty like the Electro-Harmonix POG series does. So I have really come to appreciate the Octave Up sound in this pedal. Let's listen to that for a second. Now, before we get to the final section of this video, the Polyphonic Shootout, I just wanted to give a big thanks to Zounds.com for sending me the OC-5 on loan. It's from my own personal decision if I decided to upgrade from the OC3 or not, and also I wanted to make a video and share it with you all so I can hopefully be a resource for that. If you enjoyed this video, if it's helped you at all, this was made possible entirely by Zounds, so it'd be a great thing if you decide to purchase it to use the link in the description for that. They're great people, they've got a great return policy, payment plan, and free one-day shipping on this in the United States. So let's take a look at the differences in the polyphonic modes between the OC3 and the OC5. The way it works on the OC3, once you switch to polyphonic setting, this third knob is going to control the range on your guitar at which the octave down sound starts working. So me, personally, for playing solo guitar, sometimes I'll do gigs with a single horn player, back when the gigs were happening, or a lot of the times I'm just playing by myself. What I'll do is I'll set the cutoff range to be anywhere between this E on the 7th fret and this G. And so everything below that is shifted down an octave, everything above that stays at pitch. So what do we get? We get the ability to play bass lines on the guitar. Now, unfortunately, just by nature of the way the OC3 works, it kind of limits the chord voicings that you can use. So in other words, you've got to leave at least an octave between your lowest note and the next note up. So what this does is basically just ensures that the chord voicing that you're playing only has one note in the range that the OC3 is affecting. If there's more than one note in there, sometimes it works with a fifth, with a simple interval like that, but if you've got a third or a seventh, it really messes up the tracking and you can hear it kind of pop between the notes. Let's listen to what that might sound like. Now this leads me to how the OC5 is improved. It has true recognition of your lowest tone. So instead of setting the cutoff range that the OC5 is going to work on, the OC5 actually analyzes the chord that you're playing, it picks out the lowest note, and no matter what voicing you're using, it shifts down only that lowest note. So if I was using something dense like this, it was going to take my lowest B here and only shift that down the octave. That's really useful. It allows us to expand the voicings that we're using a little bit more, so it feels more natural, while still giving us that octave down tone. However, the drawback is that when you would go to play like a single note line in between a chord solo or a comping pattern, the OC5 is going to recognize even up here, and it's going to adjust and pitch shift the lowest note all the way up here on the guitar. You can imagine why that might sound a little goofy. So what I would do in this case is actually turn off the OC5 briefly for that little lick that I'm going to play in the middle, and then turn it back on when I switch back to doing bass lines and comping. It works really well. I wish that the one feature we could have added to the OC5 would have been the ability to still have that lowest note recognition, but then set the cutoff range of it. So the way the mode knob works on the OC5 is that when we're in the polyphonic setting, which is how you access the polyphonic mode, that's that bottom switch there, this knob, when it's all the way counterclockwise, it's going to work in the lowest note setting Once you pass that little threshold, you can see there, in that sense it works exactly like the OC3. I would love to have seen that the recognition of the lowest bass note could have been limited to a certain range as well, so that I didn't have to turn it on and off in between every time I take little kind of interlude melodies and stuff. So there it is, my thoughts on the Boss OC5. I'd love to know yours too in the comments if you have anything relevant to add. The octave up sound is great. The increased tracking ability is fantastic, and I love the recognition of the lowest note as opposed to just pitch shifting the entire selected range of your instrument. I think it's a huge upgrade. I want to try and hang on to this. So if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, maybe a subscription to the channel. And if you're considering picking this up, you can find it at the link in the description. Thanks again to Zounds.com. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.